During my first loss, I felt so lost. I didn't have anyone close to me that had really experienced a miscarriage that could relate and wanted to chat with me. I had no idea what was going on. I was like grasping at straws to hear other women's stories. And I was reaching out to them, like just wanting connection so bad because I wasn't getting it elsewhere. So that was another part of my platform, is me sharing my losses and opening that door to walk with other women. I don't want my pain to like go in vain. If I have to lose these babies, I want to be able to walk with other women through their losses too. Personally, I wanted God to be able to use my pain.
That is lovely. I am so thankful that you're thinking about that, Kurin. That's amazing. Welcome to the Keeping Your Power Real Talk on Resilience podcast. I'm your host, Tracidoula. I'm a family and birth advocate, a mentor, and your personal encourager. I wanted to create the space for individuals, families, and professionals who are done with just surviving and want to rise. Because when everything feels like it's falling apart, the one thing the world can't take from you is your power. And that's where resilience begins. It's not just riding the waves or surviving the storms. It's about how to overcome the challenges. So whether you're in the thick of it or reflecting on where you've been, pull up a chair and let's navigate the hard conversations and the beautiful stories that together we can be honest and use empathy and have a desire to grow, all while, of course, keeping your power in the process. Can the deepest grief eventually lead to a double rainbow of joy and healing? In this episode, I sit down with Kurin, a mommy influencer, a podcast host, and a doula who opens up about her deeply personal journey through miscarriage. She shares the heartbreak of feeling abandoned and confused by her home birth midwife and the redemption she found in a later miscarriage and the joy of her double rainbow pregnancy that brought light back into her life. Today, Kurin uses her stories to offer hope and strength to other moms while walking beside them in their own journeys. Join our conversation while Kurin shares her heart and her thoughts around her losses and how she kept her power in the process. Kurin, welcome. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I am just so pumped to have you here. And the reason why is because, well, first of all, you are a pretty big deal in the mommy mindset these days. You are, I guess what y'all consider an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of shade my head when people say influencer because I'm like, ooh,
it just kind of has a bad name to it, I usually say like content creator, but even that is like, oh,
same.
I just post online. That's what I do.
Right. I'm just like, I'm an educator. I'm gonna throw stuff out there, and if people get it, then they get it. But we met at a doula training that I do with a certified professional midwife that was a doula that took my training years ago, and then another doula, seasoned doula, and you took the training and you sat next to me.
Yep.
And the interesting part about it was I couldn't see your face during the training, a lot of it. So I, heard you mostly. And so when I'm looking around the room, I was seeing people's faces, but with you, you were,
Yeah.
And, so I got to know you a little bit just because you sat beside me, and I had no idea. I'm Generation X. I had really no idea, the fan base that you had at that training until we got to like sharing different content kind of things. And you're like, yeah, my audience. I was like, oh, okay, who is this person? Yeah. And then I kind of stalked you. We're just not going to assume that people know who you are. So share who you are, introduce, and then we'll start from there.
Sure. Okay. So hello guys. My name is Kurin. And I am a mom of 3 littles. I do post online and have a little bit of an audience. I mainly share like my take on motherhood, all things having to do with motherhood and life, breastfeeding, pregnancy, and birth being one of the biggest ones. And like Tracy said, that's how I met her. And similarly, I kind of like recognized your face, but I was like, I don't really know who this person is. And then I posted a clip on my Instagram story of like you and Miri or you and Sarah doing something. And I had so many DMs, people being like, oh my gosh, Tracy Doula, Tracy Doula, Tracy Doula. And I was like, wait. So I had to look you up and I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen her content. That's why I recognize you. But yeah, so I have been posting online for like over a decade. I started in the makeup space. So I actually used to be a makeup artist and I really wanted to like make it big in the makeup scene back in like 2015, 2016. And it didn't really take off for me. I tried so hard to grow a following and I did have a decent amount, but it wasn't until I was like actually authentic to who I am and started posting real life stuff that I thought no one would want to see, that I started to actually gain an audience. And it was just through like authenticity and just sharing real life that I started really to just like gain a following, which is such a huge blessing. And it's so much better than being a makeup influencer because I actually get to like affect people's lives and like love on them and hear their story and connect with women. And so yeah,
connection. Like that's why I love all of this, because you know, we need to just be building these villages of, you know, hey, you're not alone. We're going through the same things. And as much as we need makeup tutorials, Kurin,
for sure.
I feel like we need to support each other in the craziness that happens in our lives as women. We can be so isolated and so, you know, thinking that we're the only ones that are going through the things that we're going through. Yeah. And I'm glad that we're talking about this, because I think that there are more, okay, I'm going to say influencer without triggering myself, or people that are just open to sharing, hey, this is who I am. And actually I'm trying to get better at doing that because I'm an educator, like I'm a childbirth educator, but I'm trying to get better at, hey, I understand where you were coming from and in, you know, certain situations. And you were just, you know, mentioning just a few minutes ago about COVID during the pandemic and some things that you went through. So let's talk about that, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah. All right. So I haven't talked about this in a long time. So hopefully I'm able to like recall everything that I need to recall, but I am excited to talk about this and kind of get a little vulnerable with my story. So I became a mom back in 2019. My son actually just turned 6 2 days ago. So that's really exciting. And all I ever wanted to be was a mother. And it was just so exciting to become a mom and finally have my own baby. I used to just dream of being a mother. I've always had like that motherliness to me. I would walk around like nursing my Teletubbies, even though my mom didn't nurse her babies. I just like knew to like nurse. And so, yeah, it was
Isn't
just
that
so,
like, that's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Like, and some people don't have that too. So I want to acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
But when you do, it is like, I wish we could bottle it up.
I know.
And sell it, because it is the best.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I became a mom in 2019. And prior to me becoming a mom, me and my husband, we got married in 2017, and he took a job opportunity about 2.5 hours away from our family. So all of our family lives in one area, and we moved 2.5 hours away from them just for his job. And so essentially we were pretty alone where we moved to. We still live here today in Spokane, Washington. It was really hard for me becoming a mom and not having support of family, like physically, you know, like we always talk about having a village, and it's really hard when you don't have that. It's really lonely, especially when I was a younger mom. I got pregnant at 21, and I was like the first of all of my friends to get pregnant and have babies. It was lonely, and simultaneously, like,
Trailblazer for all of your friends.
yes, absolutely. Simultaneously, it was the best thing. But it's still really hard because we just didn't have that support. So I found myself, like, in the first year of my son's life, constantly driving back home and like spending the weekend with my siblings and my mom and Aiden's family, just to like fill that need in me. I just so desperately wanted to like share my son with my family and just like have that and like be surrounded with love and just like help. It's hard to have kids and not have help. And every single time I would drive back home, I would literally sob. I would sob, and I would feel like so sad for like 3 days getting back home. And at the time, my husband was working a lot, and he would work a lot out of town. So that's why I'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna go spend time with family. So it worked out. But yeah, I was just super sad all the time because I just didn't have my family. And when I was about 9 months postpartum with my son, I ended up getting pregnant again. And it was earlier than I had anticipated, but we were super excited because me and my husband would love to have a big family. We want to have a lot of kids. So my mom and sister happened to be coming over literally the day I found out I was pregnant. So we got to surprise them, and it was really exciting because my due date was July. I'm a July baby. My sister's a July baby, and my mom is a July baby. So we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to have another July baby. Yeah. And it was really exciting, but also scary. And pretty much as soon as I got pregnant, my breast milk supply went away, which was really hard for me because I'm really passionate about breastfeeding. And it was really hard because my son, he didn't really necessarily care that I didn't have milk. He was still nursing. So I dry nursed him until he was like 13 months. But I had to get donor milk, which was, I'm so thankful for the gal who fed my son for me for those couple of months. But forcing him to take a bottle after he had been breastfeeding for 9 months was so sad. Right. I would just hold him, and he would be like trying to turn to latch into me, and I'm like trying to shove a bottle in his mouth, and like we're both crying because I'm like, there's nothing there and you need to have milk, and he's screaming and I'm crying, and it was really difficult. So I actually just had these like feelings of just like, I don't want to be pregnant again. Like, if it's going to affect me and my son, I don't want to be pregnant again. Like, this isn't fair for my son. It's not fair for me. I'm having to drive 30 plus minutes several times a week to go get milk for my son, and I have no family help. And it was just really hard being a young mom, and none of my friends understand because no one is breastfeeding. I'm the only one that's doing this.
Yeah. Sometimes, and even our moms, sometimes our other
my mom didn't.
Weren't.
No, my mom didn't breastfeed. My grandma, I think she breastfed one maybe for a couple of months. So I really didn't have a lot of support from family who understood. Thankfully, I had my chiropractor who she's just amazing. I call her my mommy mentor. I met her when I was 20 weeks pregnant with my son, and she's the one who found my milk donor for me. And I remember her coming to my house and adjusting me after I found out I was pregnant with my second. And I was just telling her all my feelings. I'm like, this is so hard. I don't really want to be pregnant right now. And, my breast milk supply is going away, and this is, a lot. And she was just encouraging me, saying, like, if you weren't meant to have a baby, you wouldn't be pregnant right now. Like, encouraging me. And so I started to get a little bit excited. And it's funny because right when I took that pregnancy test with my second, I felt like this weird feeling. Like, I don't know. It was just like unexplainable, almost like it wasn't real. So I kept taking pregnancy tests because I'm like, surely this is like a false positive, right? And I just had this weird feeling, and I had no symptoms. So that was another weirdness to me. But I was like, I'm also breastfeeding and stuff. So maybe that's why. And so finally, my first ultrasound comes around. And mind you, this is 2020. So they're not allowing people to come to appointments with you I begged them to allow my husband to come with me. So we got a babysitter for my son and we went to the appointment. We got in there. My husband's all excited and they're doing the ultrasound. And immediately I knew. I was like, I don't see the baby. Like my uterus, you could see like the sac and everything. I didn't see a baby. And of course, the ultrasound tech is not really saying anything. They're just measuring and they're like, oh, you're, about this time frame, but didn't give me any info. I had been pregnant before and I knew what it looked like to have a baby inside of the sac. And my husband is over here like, la-di-da-di-da. He has no idea. And I'm over here like a pit in my stomach thinking, oh my gosh, I literally was just telling my chiropractor I didn't want to be pregnant. I feel so guilty because I'm going to be having a miscarriage. Did I cause this to happen because of my emotions? I literally like did not want to have a baby and was telling people that I didn't want to be pregnant. And now I'm over here like, crap, I'm going to miscarry. So it was a lot of weird emotions because like, of course I wanted a baby, but also I was really like, oh, this isn't the time. And then I felt so guilty because I was like, okay, so now I'm gonna miscarry on top of that, and I know it was a lot. It was a lot of emotions. And my husband literally had no idea. So when the ultrasound tech left, I told him, I was like, there's no baby in there. He's like, oh, she did the measurement though. Like, yeah, there. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, there's no baby. Like, there's nothing in there. And so it's such a weird, I had a blighted ovum, which means like in the very beginning, there is a pregnancy, but then your body like absorbs it and your body still thinks that you're pregnant, but there's no baby growing.
Because on ultrasound, you can see sac. There's just not,
it's just
the yolk sac. Yeah.
There's nothing in it. It's just a black circle. Which is the weirdest type of miscarriage to have. Because it's like, there's not a baby growing, but you're pregnant and there was an embryo at some point. It's also statistically one of the hardest ones to pass naturally. So I kept going back for ultrasounds, praying for a miracle. I was like Googling people who were diagnosed with a blighted ovum. And then at their next scan, there was a baby. And I was just like, so like distraught and hopeful and just like praying that like, God, just let there be a baby next time, all the while with this next pregnancy, I had switched to a home birth midwife because my first son was a hospital birth and I was ready for a change. I wanted to go a more natural route and do a home birth midwife. At that time, my provider was not giving me the support that I was expecting from a midwife. I felt very lost and in the dark.
And that's so disappointing when we think that midwifery and home birth care is supposed to, and I quote that because, we can't let our guard down for anything, but it's so disappointing when we talk that up and we're like, oh, I'm just going to go to a midwife. And then it is sometimes exactly the same.
Right. Care. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, how devastating.
I think a lot of the time, and I pray this never becomes me working with women, but birth workers become desensitized to loss, to birth. And, we lose our awe, we lose our grief for other people. And it's just like, oh, yeah, it's just another miscarriage. It's another loss. It's another birth. And to me, it was like earth shattering, one of the worst things I ever experienced. So devastating. And I'm over here like in the dark. My midwife wasn't really responding to me. And I wasn't getting any information because the ultrasounds were being sent to her. And then I was waiting for days to hear from her to like hear what her thoughts were on the scan. If I should do another scan, like what route should we take? So I was just so lost.
You were surprised that you were pregnant again soon after. And my first two were 16 months apart. So I get that feeling, right? It's like, oh, yay. Oh, no. And then you had, just feelings of, wow, this is really taking time away from my son and I don't like it. And I wish that this was different. And, and then having all those feelings of, this is not, I just would wish this wasn't the case right now. And then just feeling all of that guilt, needing so much emotional support from someone that you thought that was going to be, first of all, supportive, but then not getting the information. I don't know how many moms that lost moms that I have talked to that said, I just didn't get great or information at all about what to expect from my provider that was a midwife.
Yeah.
And that's just mind-blowing to me.
I know. I expected to really, I guess, be handheld through it.
Body held, Corinne.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I don't know how many people's houses I have gone over to.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, when we talk about losses and miscarriages, we want to, or a lot of people tend to, you know, kind of invalidate the weeks part of it, you know, and it's like, oh, you were early, you know, and all that. No, it is all the same.
Yeah.
And you know, so for, you know, a midwife to at least not call you or to text you, but I have held many lost moms in that grieving process. And I can't imagine. Did you feel deserted? Oh
yeah. I felt abandoned. I was so angry to the point where I remember getting on my Instagram story and saying, next time I get pregnant, I'm going back to the OB. I'm not going to have a home birth. I don't think this natural route is right for me, because I felt so abandoned. I'm like, this is supposed to be different, yet I'm not receiving care and love that I thought I would. And I had little to no information about what was going on, because it was just such a confusing type of miscarriage. I wasn't bleeding. I kept taking pregnancy tests every day, praying and hoping to God that it would be lighter. It never was. And I waited 12 weeks to miscarry. I wanted to do it naturally so bad. And it was so just horrendous. I would go to the bathroom. Every single time I go to the bathroom, I would wipe and pray for blood, because I just wanted to miscarry so I could just get this over with so badly. And I was like, great. So I lost my breast milk supply. For what? So I was really angry, because I just wanted to get that over with so I could start to try and like get my supply back. And so my midwife had me do some really disgusting herbs to try and get my body to miscarry. It did not work. And it just like took over my life for several months, just trying to get my body to do this on its own. And I had decided to go back to the OB, and I was like, I'm going to see what my options are over there. And they gave me the two options of taking the pill to miscarry, or I could do a DNC. And I had just looked into the statistics again with blighted ovums, and I decided I was going to do a DNC, because I really didn't want to take a pill and for it to like maybe half work or whatever. I just wanted to be done. I was done. But also I was really scared to get a DNC. Like it's a surgery, you know? And like the thought of like my uterus being scraped and like all of that stuff was just so scary to me. But also I started to get signs of infection. So I was having like green discharge, and my shoulders, I felt like I was drunk. They were like heavy. Yeah. Which is weird, because there wasn't like a baby in there that would be, you know, decaying, but I don't know if it was the sac. I don't know if it was the herbs. I'm not sure what was happening, but I started feeling just like heavy shoulders. And so once I told my midwife, hey, I'm going to go the DNC route, I didn't hear from her again.
Oh, wow. So maybe a lot of bias on her part.
I don't know if she just thought like, okay, she's switching providers, so I'm not going to check in. I don't know. So I did.
Sense of abandonment.
Yes, right? And so I went ahead and I scheduled my DNC, and I was really scared, but they were so kind. They were so kind to me. They really took care of me. I felt like I had a fantastic experience with the OB that was doing my DNC, all the nurses, everybody there. I went to a hospital that's like a religious hospital. So I had like a pastor come in and ask if I wanted prayer. And it was just like a really sweet and special offering. And so I went back for my procedure. It was really quick. And I remember when I was coming out of anesthesia and they were bringing me back into the recovery room, I was like, I'm so thankful for this procedure. And the nurse is like, I know. It was just like, finally, it was done and over with, and I could start to heal again. And so yeah, my recovery with the DNC was actually really easy. I just took the rest of the day just laying in bed. I had coffee. My husband brought me food. The only thing was like I was still producing a little bit of milk, but I was like pumping and dumping because of the medication that they gave me. My son was already on donor milk anyway, so it was fine. And it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be, and I had a really good experience with getting my DNC.
That is so great. I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that, but I'm thankful of like, I'm kind of like listening to your words and your story and kind of seeing in real time, kind of like the growth process too, that you had through that. It's like, oh, okay, this is how the world is, because I thought that this was going to be, I thought this was going to be different care. Well, didn't turn out that way. So I'm going to go back to the people that I think are going to be able to give me the option that they can. And, I feel like growth as people in general, but growth as moms,
absolutely,
especially in advocacy, because we have to advocate for ourselves first. And you did just by default, just because of the position that you were in. But then you leaned into your fear. And that's where resilience is. Like, we have to practice it. We're like, okay, I've heard all the things. Okay, let's just go there for a second. I've heard all the things, maybe some biased things about DNC, all the things that we hear about DNC and what they're attached to. But when it comes to medical procedures that need to happen sooner or later, these things are really good and really good to have. And as scary as it is, I'm glad that you decided it, and I'm glad that it went really, really well, and that you came out psychologically whole from it. Not even that, you were like,
yes, I can't even describe the relief to have that over with, because it was 2 months of me trying so hard to miscarry on my own, because I really wanted to try to do it naturally. And finally, I just had to surrender and be like, okay, this is not good for my mental health. It's not good for my physical health.
Right.
Let's go with this option. And I had a really great experience, and I'm just super
And you
thankful.
have people that you have to take care of.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's not failing. I feel like when some, naturalists say, naturalist meaning we would bend toward, not taking Tylenol at the first sign of a headache, So we grab the more natural things first. And I've talked to so many naturalists that say, I just feel like I failed if I had to go a medical route. And I'm like, no, they're just all kind of options, and it's a spectrum of let's just stay healthy.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to losses and miscarriages, there is a risk benefit that has to, an undertaking of that. And of course it's a grieving process, but it's never a failure. It's just a different decision.
Yep. So after I had that loss, it really like sparked the desire to have another baby. Like, me and my husband were like, I feel like some women, it goes either way. Either you're like, I cannot get pregnant again. I don't want to get pregnant again for a long time. Avoid pregnancy. Or it's like this like weird empty arms feeling. Although my arms were not empty because I had my son, it was also just like, oh my gosh, like we need to have another baby. I started ovulating like 2 weeks after my DNC. I was very blessed to have my cycle come back so quickly and be just like really regular. And so me and my husband had decided that we were going to start trying again. At my follow-up appointment from the DNC, my OB had told me that as soon as I get my cycle back, it would be safe for me to try again if I wanted to try again. So we did. We decided we were going to try again and got pregnant 2 months later, 2 months after my D&C. And
what do you feel like is typical, Corinne, for that type of, do you feel it like, because I feel like it takes longer, but I feel like most people, they don't regulate for a while.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that is often the case, emotionally and physically. It's really hard to regulate after having a miscarriage. I think I became really obsessive with trying all the things to prevent another loss. So I was doing all the supplements, all the like essential oil things, the progesterone like oils, and like everything. I did a detox too. I did like some sort of I don't know, heavy metal detox after my loss. Like I was doing everything because I was like, I just want to get pregnant again. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Well,
But
hey, I don't feel like heavy metal detoxes are bad in themselves.
Right,
So
right.
if anything helps.
Yes. Yeah. So I just became obsessive with that. And I'm not sure if that had anything to do with me getting pregnant so quickly again, or if it's just the fact that I have a really good regulated cycle. I always have. Yeah. I got pregnant again 2 months later. And we had just moved into our new home, the house that we're in right now. So it's just a bunch of changes happening. Super exciting though. And prior, I'm going to actually scoot back a little bit in the timeline. After my first loss, me and my best friend of, gosh, how many years? We've been best friends for probably, I want to say like 16-ish years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
We got in a really, really, really big fight. And we stopped talking for a year. And it was out of hurt. Because her and I are so totally opposite. Like she's the career woman who is not really interested in having kids. And I'm over here like, this is my entire life. And when I went through my loss, I just did not feel like I got any support from her. And we just got into this huge blowout fight and we stopped being friends. I lost my best friend after I had that miscarriage. And then soon after that, I lost another one of my really good friends because she had felt that she was there for me, but I was not there for her. She felt like we were always talking about my losses and that I was not reciprocating the same to her. I have my own feelings about that still to this day, but I can understand. I can understand that thought process.
Reciprocity in relationships is so hard as adults.
Yeah.
That is another whole episode we could do, to be honest.
Yeah.
It is a lot to navigate.
She was the one who watched my son during my first miscarriage. So she was like pretty involved in the process. And so basically I'd lost my two of my closest friends. And at the time I didn't have a lot of friends. I've always been the type of person who has like maybe 2 or 3 really close friends, and I'm good with that. So when I lose 2 of those people and I have no family here and I've just gone through a loss and we moved houses, which was the biggest blessing, but still a lot, to be moving. It was a really dark time. Plus COVID. Are you kidding me? Everything is closed. Like the medical.
Like we're all still trying to get over COVID. Yes. Like even 5 years from that. But I can't.
I'm like, was that a fever dream? Like what the heck happened? That was crazy.
What the hell?
Yes. Yeah. So
you lost 2 friends. So miscarriage, 2 friends. All the whirlwind of abandonment in the medical field and the medical things too. So then what? So what is going on with and you were in the middle of COVID.
Yeah. So it was 2020. I had gotten pregnant. So I had my D&C July 27th of 2020. I got pregnant 2 months later. So that would have been September of 2020. My husband was still working a lot. He also had a hard time with figuring out how to be there for me, because with a loss, it can be kind of confusing for men. And we also really struggled in our relationship for a couple of years. And it was during that time that it was kind of a struggle. So I really felt so alone. Alone, like abandoned my provider. Me and my husband were not super connected at this point. And then I lost both of my closest friends. But like I said, I got pregnant again and I was hopeful and I was excited but scared. I did go back to the same midwife.
Because you were just benefit of the doubt person, aren't you?
Yes, but also provider loyalty, which is weird.
Let's talk about that for a second, correct? Provider loyalty is wild to me.
It is. I have gone on to have 2 live babies with that same provider. So provider, and I have done so much like processing and debriefing over the last couple of years that I'm like, oh my gosh, like all of this untangling of that, like provider loyalty. I think it's just a lot of it has to do with like comfort and you know what to expect, even if it's not what you want. Like,
right.
Okay,
it's familiar.
Up. Yes, it's familiar. Like, okay, I know their name. I've got their phone number. I know where their address is. I kind of know what their care is going to look like. And also
There's no surprises.
Yes. And talking a little bit about like social media stuff. This is not to talk bad about her at all. I think she is a wonderful woman. I do. But she does have one of those like Instagram pages that's like the romanticizing of the midwife. She is a little bit of like the Instagram midwife, like everything's super aesthetic, and like her practice at the time was like I would go to her tiny home and she would offer me tea, and then she was low volume at the time, which I really liked.
Okay.
And again, the home birth thing. And so that's what I had thought that I wanted. I went back to her and
how did that go?
I had another loss and I was abandoned again. So
we just want people to make good choices, do we not?
I know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard for me because I don't want to feel, I don't know. I don't ever want to like speak poorly because I really do really love her as a woman, but I think my expectations and wants are different than what she can provide, and that's okay.
Right. And I'll throw in here, because this has been said on many episodes of my podcast, just because we're sharing our stories does not mean that we're throwing somebody else under the bus.
And I never want it to come off that way either.
No, not at all. Not at all. But you know, your feelings and your story is valid. You're not trying to hurt her or speak poorly of her. And, you know, same with any relationship that's broken down. We have to find the power in that process too, of healing. Right. And she didn't, this midwife didn't have anything to do with your losses. We'll say,
yes.
You know, we're not saying that she was some omen that you just kept having losses. You went to her. And I don't even know your midwife. So I'll just throw that out there too. I don't have any clue who you used, and which I'm thankful for. But I do think that we have a perception of what we really want from people. And it's like your perception of her was probably more expectation that she had the capacity for. And you, again, went back to her thinking, okay, well, this is a different time. This is a different me. Hopefully I will get the care, you know, or emotional support that I needed. And so that didn't happen again. So you felt abandoned for the second time.
So yeah, I found out I was pregnant. I was very excited, but also terrified and hopeful. And so my midwife, she had actually offered to do like some blood draws to check my progesterone, because we didn't really know why I had lost the last one, but a blighted ovum usually means that there's something wrong with like the DNA, right? So just and not being compatible with life. So she was going to do like a progesterone check on me, but she ended up getting COVID when I was going to go get my blood drawn. And so I was kind of disappointed by that. And it was around Thanksgiving that this my blood draw was supposed to happen. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to go to one of those boutique ultrasounds, and I'm going to go get an ultrasound because she hadn't sent me for one yet. I think my medical ultrasound was scheduled for like after Thanksgiving. And I really wanted to tell my family that we were pregnant again with our rainbow baby. Like I had this whole plan of how I was going to like announce it to everybody. So we decide we're going to go to this ultrasound, like boutique ultrasound, just to see if there's a baby in Heartbeat. And once we had that confirmation, we were going to go ahead and tell our family at Thanksgiving. So we go to do the boutique ultrasound, and that morning I wipe and I notice the tiniest, like light blood tinge. And immediately my heart drops because I'm like, honestly, it was barely anything. Like once you have losses though, like you kind of obsessively in pregnancy will check for blood. Like it's just like constant. You're checking. Okay, is there any blood on here? And you'll like dissect your toilet paper. So that's why I noticed it. And so we had gone to the boutique ultrasound, and there was a baby and there was a heartbeat in there. The baby was measuring smaller than like where it was supposed to be with gestation, but also it was a boutique ultrasound and she wasn't doing like an internal, it was abdominal, and I was really early on. So I'm not quite sure if that had anything to do with measurements or not, because she's not a medical provider, but she did tell me I was measuring off. But the baby had a heartbeat of 135, so lower than I would hope, but still there was a live baby in there. So we decide we're going to move forward with telling our family, but the entire drive, going back and forth on if I wanted to tell my family, and my husband's like, why? There's a baby, there's a heartbeat. And I was like, well, I wiped this morning. There was a little bit of blood. Like I'm kind of worried. And he was like all gung ho on telling our family. And I was really nervous. We ultimately decided to tell our family. The bleeding picked up. I kept bleeding every day. It got darker and heavier. And I was kind of in denial a little bit, and I was like Googling, why could you be bleeding in pregnancy? Like really hoping that I wasn't going to have another loss. And so like I convinced myself that I had like a subchorionic hematoma.
Right.
That's what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to have anything to do with me losing a baby. I wanted it to just be something else. Yeah, it really picked up. It was super heavy, but I wasn't cramping. So that was the other thing that I was like trying to convince myself of. It's like, well, Kurin, you're not cramping and it's just blood. Like it's okay.
Which is all reasonable.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like and some people bleed because we don't know. But yeah, I mean, it could have been anything. So you're not being unreasonable. You're not really gaslighting yourself out of it because you don't know yet.
Yes. So I ended up, obviously keeping in contact with my midwife, and she was kind of suspecting low progesterone. But again, I couldn't see her because she had COVID. So she ended up moving up my medical ultrasound to go see what was going on. At that time, remember, I wasn't friends with my friend anymore. So I had nobody to watch my son for me. And they wouldn't allow more than 2 people or more than one person. They had to be an adult in the ultrasound room with you. So my husband took time off of work, met me in the ultrasound parking lot to grab my son and sit in the car with him while I walked into the ultrasound clinic and just praying that everything was going to be okay. I go in there and I tell the ultrasound tech I'm bleeding, and she's like, oh, that's okay. Nothing to worry about, it's fine. And so I'm like, okay, the ultrasound tech thinks it's okay. That means it's going to be okay. And I asked her, I was like, can I FaceTime my husband because he's not able to be with me? I'm alone with a mask on my face, no support from my husband physically. And she told me no. She said, nope, you cannot FaceTime your husband. She said, but I will print a photo out if we see anything. And I was like, okay. So she sticks the wand up me, and there is a perfect baby right on track with no heartbeat. Yeah, no heartbeat. And I I can't even describe the feeling. I was trying so hard to hold back tears because I don't like to cry in front of people. Like, if I'm going to cry, it's going to be alone. It's going to be in the shower. I'm going to hide away in a corner. Like, I don't want childhood stuff. I don't want to cry in front of people. And so she didn't print a photo for me, which I really wanted. I wanted a photo of my baby, even though they had passed. So I actually think, I don't know, I wish she would have given me a photo because we did see something. There just wasn't a heartbeat. And that baby was perfect, perfectly on track. Baby, like gummy bear baby. But she didn't give me a photo. And she just said, your provider will be in contact with you, essentially. And so I made it to the door of the ultrasound place and just started bursting into tears. And I get into the car with my husband and I'm just like, why did this happen again? Like, just absolutely devastated. So devastated. And then my midwife calls me pretty quickly after that. And she's like, hey, so yeah, your baby's no longer with us. There's no heartbeat. And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. I know. That was really devastating. In some ways, I will say that it was easier than my first loss because I did miscarry naturally. And I ended up miscarrying, I think, a few days after that ultrasound at home. And it was a labor. It was my longest labor I've had out of all of my babies, actually.
Oh,
it
wow.
was like close to 24 hours of labor. And
I
it
think
was
that's another thing people don't expect too.
Yeah.
Is, oh, you know, I don't know, like the weeks that are like, you know, below, like the, you know, around the 20 and below, people
Yeah.
are not expecting
Yeah.
for it to be like labor.
Yeah. And it was. I wouldn't say it's obviously as intense, at least in my experience, it wasn't as intense as like transition is, but it was definitely like active labor. I was contracting every couple of minutes, bleeding pretty heavily. And because I was miscarrying, I was able to take pain medication. So that was a praise to help that pain a little bit. And of course, my husband's at work. And I have my son who's 2 and I'm at home miscarrying by myself. And yeah, it was almost 24 hours long. I just kept going to the bathroom, wiping. And finally I wiped one time and this perfect sack came out onto the toilet paper with my baby inside, which was actually really amazing. It was really cool to see like how developed my baby was, how like my baby looked perfect, like such a cute tiny little gummy bear. I got to see the little fingers and the hands and the feet. And the whole time I was so calm too. There was like such a peace over me during that day when I was miscarrying. It felt, I don't know, it just felt kind of like holy, to be honest. Like it was really kind of redeeming from my first loss because my first loss was so confusing, so weird. I had a surgery and like I never saw a baby, so it was almost harder because my grieving was weird and like different. Whereas this one, I saw the baby with a heartbeat, knew they were alive at one point, saw them again on ultrasound, measuring perfectly, looking perfect. And then I got to meet my baby and there was closure with it, you know? So I ended up like Googling to see if there was a place that I could like cremate this tiny, tiny, tiny baby. And memorial homes, they'll do it for free. They do infants and like losses and miscarriages for free. So I called our local, yeah, I called our local place and I had put my little baby in like a little box in the fridge to kind of keep them, you know, stable until my husband was able to take them to the memorial place. And I did end up getting my baby cremated and put the ashes in a ring. So that was really special for me. I got one for my husband as well. I think back on that miscarriage and it was really, really sad and it was really, really hard, but it was almost, I just got so much more closure. with that loss because I actually got to meet my baby and like give them a name. Yes, that miscarriage was like a little more painful because after like I birthed my little tiny baby, my contractions really picked up because I had to get the placenta out, and I was shocked at how big my placenta was already. Like when that thing came out, I was like, holy crap. Like,
how many weeks were you?
So I was about 9. And
Okay.
about 9 to 10 weeks. And my placenta, when it came, it could have been like blood clots as well on it, but it was like meaty and thick. It's still probably like this big when it came out. Yeah. So I sent that picture to my midwife, and she was like, yep, that looks like the placenta. I think your miscarriage is complete, but obviously like keep an eye on it. If your bleeding is up and down, then, you know, we need to have that checked out. And my bleeding,
I think you're the first person that has told a story that was like a redemptive miscarriage.
Yeah. It was definitely a redemptive miscarriage for me. It's just something about like getting to hold that tiny, tiny baby and get to honor them in a way that I wanted to honor them. And like now I have my special ring that I get to wear.
Love that.
And, you know, remember that baby. And it was actually really sweet because an old friend of mine had sent me like this certificate where she had like paid for a couple of trees to be planted in the forest in honor of my angel babies. So that was like really sweet of her. She sent that to me, and then my sister-in-law had sent me some plants. So although I like didn't have the physical support from people, I did have like friends online, and my sister-in-law send things, and my chiropractor had brought me like a card and chocolate because she had gone through loss as well, so she understood. And I just remember praying, and I'm like, God, I don't want my pain to like be for nothing. I don't want it to like go in vain. Personally, I wanted God to be able to use my pain. Like, if I have to lose these babies, I want to be able to walk with other women through their losses too, which has turned into like a really big passion of mine. And I'm currently in a 1-year like birth worker training online, and we have to do a big school project, which is due like next month. So I need to hurry up and get everything all tie up the loose ends. But my project is based around miscarriage. So I am setting up like one-on-one calls to help women debrief their losses. I am setting up like a whole directory basically of like miscarriage resources. And I'm also putting together like an Amazon storefront of items that I felt were helpful for me while I was actively miscarrying.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things you don't think about, you know, like a strainer.
Yeah, like a strainer. I was just getting ready to say, like, because when I did my loss training, there's just stuff that you don't think about, you know, and it's, you know, and I'll stop here and say too, anybody that's listening or watching this, there is a grieving process when you don't know when the loss happened.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
When you are, you know, going and wiping, there are people who, you know, don't know. They will never know. They'll never see, you know, their babies. And then there's just this guilt, you know, process that happens, you know, thinking that you have fleshed your own child. And there are, you know, I just want to hold space for people to just have so much grace for this process. And, you know, I've had so many moms who were like, if I didn't have the strain, like, what would I have done without the strainer? You know, what would I have done and not have all the stuff that we collected to go through these things? It's just stuff that you don't think about. That is lovely. I am so thankful that you're thinking about that, Kurin. That's amazing.
Well, it's just so needed because, I mean, during my first loss, I felt so lost. Like I had no idea what was going on. I was like grasping at straws to hear other women's stories and like looking up different things to try and like, I don't know, like other women who had posted that they had a loss in the past. I was reaching out to them, like just wanting connection so bad because I wasn't getting it elsewhere. You know, I wasn't getting it from my provider. My husband doesn't fully understand. I had lost my 2 friends. Neither of them had losses anyways. Like, I didn't have anyone close to me that had really experienced a miscarriage that could relate and wanted to chat with me. So that was kind of another part of like my platform, is me sharing my losses and opening that door to walk with other women. And so that is definitely going to be a part of, my birth worker journey, because I've been there, and it's hard when you don't really know what to do. And like, even just like the physical things like the strainer, or like I was drinking teas to kind of like help with all of the bleeding afterwards, and like the healing of your uterus, and like a heating pack during the contractions. And I was using some oils just for like emotional support, like just the little things that were like helpful. Like, you think of the things that help a woman in labor when they're giving birth to a live baby. A lot of those things can be helpful during a miscarriage too.
And then
So
the
yeah.
emotional releases,
Yeah.
people grieve and have emotional releases way differently than other people. You just said, I have to allow myself to cry.
Yeah.
I can't cry just in front of people. And sometimes people just have to give themselves permission to cry, because I think as a society and women, we have been kind of conditioned that we can't have a whole lot of emotions a lot of times, especially, we don't talk about this enough. We don't talk about it. One in four moms will experience a miscarriage, and we don't talk enough about it, because I don't care where you are in that weeks of the process. It is heavy. It can be so heavy. The things that people don't need to say. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything at all. Just
Please.
what I say, show up and shut up. just show up and shut up.
So I actually ended up doing a TikTok series after I lost my 2 losses, and I was like, things not to say to somebody going through a miscarriage.
What is your number one? What is your number one that maybe somebody said to you, but not to say?
I would say I have 2. One of them being like, well, at least you were early. That's a huge one. It's just like so invalidating, because people really don't understand, like, when you are miscarrying, it is a labor. You're giving birth to a baby early. It's just early labor. It's an early labor. Okay. And like I said, my second loss is the longest labor I've had out of my 3 live children.
That's not just cramping. That is contractions.
Please. And that's one thing I think providers can do better in, is preparing women for this might happen to you. Like, some women might just have like, okay, one big gush and everything is out. I don't know. Everyone has different situations, but like, to tell them, oh, it's going to be like a period. It's just going to be a period. It's like, no, you are probably going to see your baby and you're going to birth a placenta. There's gonna be clots. Like, it's gonna be a whole day, maybe longer. It's like, women need to be prepared for what is actually going to take place, because then it can be really traumatizing when you're just told, oh, it's just going to be a period, or maybe a little heavier period. It's like, why are we reducing a loss to that too? It's just so invalidating. So yeah, at least you were early. And then my other one is, oh, you should be thankful for the son that you already have. And it's like, duh. I am thankful for my son, but that also does not erase what I've just gone through, like, at least you can have a baby. And then the other thing too is, I'm going to come up with a third one. Sorry. Bringing in other women who have infertility and being like, well, at least you can get pregnant. There are some women who can't get pregnant. There are people who are infertile, and like making you feel worse because there are women who can't have babies.
Yeah. The comparison, the invalidation by comparison is what I say to that. And it's just like, somebody's trauma or crisis is not any more or less valid than somebody else's. And, everybody is human, and we can't do that. We can't compare. And the at least statements drive me crazy. I think I've heard probably at all. And the bottom line to this is just to make, if you don't know what to say and you are scared that you're going to say something wrong, you don't have to. You can just show up. You can listen. You can say, hey, what can I do to help you to
Yes.
make your life easier
Yes.
today?
Yeah.
And not say anything, because
Yeah.
it's not the words, it's the caring heart that people need,
Right.
that want to be supportive. You've already said that you wish you had had more support
Mhm.
from your midwife and didn't get it.
Yeah.
And we don't have to fix it for people. We just
Right.
don't have to we can't fix it,
Mhm.
but we do, not, I think people are well intended by some of those comments, but
They
it's
are.
the at least comments.
Well, let's just like think about it a little more before you say
Yeah,
something.
let's just think about it. Yeah, let's just
Yeah,
think about it.
even honestly just saying I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Yes.
I know some people get triggered by that, and there was a couple of years that I like really tried not to say the word I'm sorry to people, because I feel like sometimes that word has really just become overused and is not super genuine. But now I've kind of come back around and been like, no, I am so sorry for them. I am so sorry for them, just saying something simple like that, or I'm here for you. Send them like food gift cards, grocery gift cards, things that are like physically helpful, because I really didn't want to like cook and eat a lot after I wanted to eat, but I didn't want to cook after my losses. And honestly, like I really enjoyed getting plants and flowers, and there's a lot of ways that you can, support someone through losses without being like, oh, at least this. And it's like,
I'm just like, just be available. Just be available. And like I said, being available is showing up and shutting up.
Yeah.
We don't have to always say anything. I think you're going to be an amazing birth worker because of the lens that you see, through the heart that you have for moms in general. It's going, and you have this, this empathy that you can bring along beside, that is going to be such a major impact on people in their lives and what they're going through. It's just absolutely amazing. I want some of the lists so we can put that in the, the description of this episode too. So people will have having just the Amazon list that nobody would ever think that they needed, right?
Yeah.
Like here's your Amazon list for your miscarriage package that you would never think that you would need is just brilliant and forethought for people and just compassionate. And
I actually my first desire was to create boxes for women that I could send them. But honestly, when you're miscarrying, it's best if you can get things like immediately. So I was like, well, Amazon a lot of the time has like next day delivery and things like that. So I would have loved to like create miscarriage boxes for women, but I think it's best like if you can get those things on hand as quick as possible. So that's why I ended up defaulting to the Amazon list, which I think is going to be super helpful for women to get their hands on the things that they need.
Well, on a side note of that, if you want to, because I hear you wanting to give your heart to lost moms, right? And I mean, you could still put your heart into it and say, send me something that was a part of your journey, and I will do A, B, and C with it, and then send it back just with your special, your special twist. I used to get, this is all of my clients that I used to work with, but I used to give them all baby blankets with their kids' names on it and their birthdays. And so I think as doulas, no matter what type of doula you are or who you're working with, we always want to give ourselves after the fact. So you doing this, and most of the people you're going to run into too are going to be online. So even thinking about something like that, but like I said, you coming up with just something somebody is not going to think about, that you're like, look, you're not going to think about this. I've been through this. I understand. And then the cloudiness of people having to go through that journey and not thinking about even eating, like, remember, you got to eat today. Remember, that these are the things that you need to think about. Don't answer your phone. Don't, whatever, just guard your space. Those kind of typical things would be, good too, for people to remember.
Yeah.
But I'm just thankful that I ran into you.
I'd like to add in one little last detail of my story. I just want to give hope for any woman who's listening to this who has gone through losses and kind of is in that waiting period to wonder, if they're going to have another baby again, if they're going to be able to sustain a pregnancy. I just have this beautiful, quick little story to share. Yeah. So after my second loss, me and my husband did decide to start trying again because I really, really wanted a baby. It took us 3 months to conceive our next baby. But before I found out I was pregnant with my double rainbow baby, we went to Maui on a trip. And I brought ashes from my baby, who I had named Ira, because I had a little bit in my ring, but I also had a little jar of the leftover ashes. And my plan was to spread the ashes in Maui, in the ocean, because that's a very special place for me and my husband. And so we had gone the whole trip without doing it. And on the very last night, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to go spread these ashes in the ocean. Like, oh, we almost forgot. And so we're up in the condo. I grab the ashes and we're going to go down to the ocean. And as soon as we step foot outside, huge rainbow, massive rainbow as we're spreading our baby's ashes in the ocean. And then when we get home, I take a pregnancy test and I was pregnant with our double rainbow, who is now 3.5. She'll be 4 in December. And I've gone on to have another baby too, who will be 2 in November. So, yeah, just wanted to kind of share that little message
I
of
love
hope
that
for women.
That gives me chills.
Yeah, it was a really special moment to be able to have that, honor my baby, and also have a little sign from God being like, you're pregnant with your rainbow baby. And then I find out that I am, and I've got 2 girls after my 2 losses that have stuck around and are here. So yeah, just wanted to give that little hope.
There is hope, and I know that there's a lot of, hopelessness and kind of and despair in the moments of like, hearing the words, or not even hearing the words. You even knew, you're watching the screens, also. And to hear that, and to even in those moments, I really feel like what I call God picks us up and swings us around and puts us down moments. But and it's hard to share those. And I know sometimes that it's hard to share those, and you're like, no, we're not taking away the part where you're still grieving. I just want to give you the hope on the other side, but I'm still leaving space for you to get through the grieving process. But here's what can come, and
what was possible for me, and yeah, can be hopefully
can be possible for anybody. Yeah. Kurin, I love it so much.
Me too.
Thanks again.
Great story.
No, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so happy that we finally got to sit down and chat again.
Yes. And we're going to be, it's like, now that we have met, we are all over each other's stuff now. I feel like I'm always seeing you. I'm always cheering you on, and I'll comment every once in a while on your comment section, and I'll be like, "Well, here's what I did," and then people are like, "Oh, yes," and I keep forgetting that, and this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I keep forgetting that, we're going to say the same things over and over and over again. And there's always going to be people that need to hear and the encouragement.
Totally. Because sometimes I'm like, dang, am I repeating myself too much? And it's like, no. There are always more ears and more eyes that need this information. And like, we just need to keep putting it out. And kind of like what you said earlier, what I always say is my content is not for everybody, but it is for some people, and that's okay. And I'm posting for those some people. But yeah, and I would love to have you on season 3 of my podcast that I will be launching in this fall. So I'll have to get with you about that, and we can chat over on my podcast.
Do it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do it.
Awesome.
All right, Kurin. Well, I'm going to let you go and do your thing, and we will talk at you soon.
Sounds good.
All right, girlie.
Bye.
Thank you for spending time with me today. If you follow me on TikTok at Tracidoula4 or Instagram at Tracidoula, you know how I like to dig into the deep conversations. If you don't follow me on those places, you should, as well as this podcast. As we lean into honest conversations, especially the hard ones, remember that your journey has power and your healing lights the way for others. The work you're doing ripples further than you know. If you'd like to work with me, whether it's coaching or childbirth classes or workshops if you're a professional or mentoring, or maybe even speaking at an event, visit tracidoula.com. And if today's conversation spoke to you, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Reach out anytime through email at hello@tracidoula.com and feel free to leave a comment. Until next time, move forward with intention and keep your power in the process.